Welcome to the Town of Avon Advisory Plan Commission meeting. If you are interested in having a copy of the agenda, they are available on the tables to the right of the audience. We will be conducting business as outlined on the agenda. From time to time, the board may deviate from the agenda. As president of this body, I will inform those in attendance of any deviations. This meeting is being recorded for the public record. Because of this, we request that personal conversations are kept to a minimum and that all cell phones are set to vibrate. Any phone calls shall be taken outside of the chambers. If you are interested in commenting during the public hearing portion of the Commission's deliberations, please sign up on the sheets located on the tables to the right of the audience. When your name is called, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please address your comments to the board and not to the staff or to the petitioner. Your comments should relate directly to this case at hand. During the conduct of the public hearing portion of the Commission's deliberations, the petitioner will have 10 minutes to present their case to the Commission. Remonstrators will have 10 minutes to present objections to the petition. Persons in support of the petition, other than the petitioner, will have 10 minutes to present support for the petition. Finally, the petitioner will close the public hearing portion of the presentation with a 5-minute rebuttal period. Once the public hearing is closed, no additional testimony will be heard unless it is solicited by members of the Commission during the question and answer phase of the Commission's deliberations. Subdivision plat and development plat petitions are ministerial requests, meaning that if the proposal meets the requirements set forth in the town's development ordinances, the Plan Commission must approve the request. In the interest of transparency, state law requires that the Plan Commission hold a public hearing, even if the development proposal must be approved. Responses to public comments and questions may be given once the public hearing portion is closed. We do understand that there may be several persons who wish to speak. In order to keep the meeting running in a timely fashion, we would request that you not repeat previous comments. Thank you for your assistance in facilitating a respectful, fair, and timely meeting. Again, welcome to our meeting. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we do a call to order or a attendance? Thank you. Sorry.
Catherine Ransberg.
Here.
Paul Guckenberger.
Here.
Bill Reed.
Here.
Greg Zusen.
Present.
Jennifer Spencer. Here. Mason Pike.
Here.
And Dave Kaufman.
Here.
We have a quorum. Okay, now we're moving on to the approval of meeting minutes. I see that we have 2 meeting minutes in front of us, one for June 26th and one for March 27th.
Only one of those is to be approved. I was going through minutes and noticed that we didn't have a signed copy of the March ones.
Ah,
So I
okay.
figured we might as well get that today.
So we'll get that signature
Those
afterwards.
have already been approved.
Okay, very good. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the meeting minutes from June 26th?
My only comment is on 6.2, the vote was 4-0, and then all the other votes are 6-0. So I'm assuming everybody still voted. Other than that, I would make the motion as amended.
Second.
All in favor of accepting the meeting minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. Motion is carried. We now have the public comment section. This is the opportunity when anybody in the public may comment on items on the agenda that are not a public hearing or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. And seeing we have nobody in the chamber at the moment, I will close the public comment section. Next, move on to the request for continuances or agenda modifications.
two requests for continuances. The first being DPR 2306 Sedan Trucking. That's a request for approval of a development plan to construct a truck trailer parking, thank you, truck trailer parking and maintenance facility. You have yet to see this one. This has not gone before you. You did approve a continuance request last month, but they need additional time. In my discussions with the petitioner, they are currently redesigning it. I don't know how different it is from the plans that we've seen. So it may need to go under additional review at that time, but they are seeking a continuance to next month's agenda. And in addition to that, we also have DPR 23-10 Avon Business Park. You may remember this one from last month. This is a request for approval of a development plan review to approve 6 new flex industrial buildings of 12,000 square feet each for a total of 72,000 square feet. This petition came with several waivers, architectural waivers, and the commission had several comments regarding those. And you essentially continued their petition to the August meeting so that they could redesign to accommodate your concerns and your comments there. I've discussed with the petitioner, and they are in the process of doing that, making those accommodations and taking the feedback that you guys gave them, but they do need a little bit more time for that. So they are requesting a continuance to the August meeting as well, August 28th.
Are there any objections to these two requests for continuances? If not, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion that we honor the request for continuance to the August 28th, 2023 meeting for DPR 23-06 Sedan Trucking.
Second.
All in favor of the motion to continue, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I'll entertain a motion for the continuance request for the Avon Business Park.
I move that we grant the petitioner's request for continuance until the August 2023 hearing for DPR 23-10 Avon Business Park.
I'll second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, do we have any old business?
No old business.
So now we move on to new business, which is the Washington Township Park Maintenance Facility.
So before we start this, I had a little wrench thrown in. I'm sitting here and I'm wondering where the petitioner is. So I checked my notice here, and the notice is correct. It has the correct date, correct time, correct place. So before the meeting started, I emailed the petitioner and said, hey, are you running late? And I received a response that he thought he had it written down as 7. He tells me now that Google says he'll be there at 6:55.
Okay, we've got 15 minutes to kill.
If you'd like, I'd be happy to start the presentation for you. And then hopefully by that time, the petitioner will be here.
That sounds like a grand idea.
Okay.
Not that it matters, but if he's not here, do we have to wait?
You do not have to wait.
Did he contact us or you contacted him?
I contacted him.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and hear the town's presentation.
I would be happy to. So we got one item on the agenda, that's DPR 23-12, Washington Township Park Maintenance Facility. And it's a request for approval of a development plan review petition to allow for the development of a 3,456 square foot park maintenance facility. This development plan comes with 2 waivers. Waiver A, UDO 7.10, a request for relief from all architectural requirements for an institutional building. This is a blanket waiver, and we'll get a little more into that. Waiver B is of UDO chapter 6.1 to 6.8, and that is a request for relief from all landscaping requirements. Again, another blanket request, but we'll explain that further. The history, there's really not much history on this parcel. It was annexed into the town by ordinance number 2008-13, and these are the various petitions related to its initial development in 2008 and 2009. This here is the property. It'll be hard to see, but I got another better picture for you to view. But it is zoned R1. It is west of 625, I believe, there. And just east of Station Hill and Ridge Hill subdivisions in Prestwick. You can see the golf course here. Here's a better view, a better idea of where the proposed maintenance facility is going. It's going to be located right where this star here is located, just south of the splash pad here. I hope you've all visited this park because it's great. So I hope you're familiar with the location. As I said, it's a request for approval of a development plan to allow for a 3,456 square foot maintenance facility. As I understand it, as is imparted to me, the Washington Township Parks Department is currently transporting maintenance equipment. So as I understand it, they're loading like lawnmowers and other equipment into a trailer every day and transporting it here. So they're looking for a more efficient route to do park maintenance. Staff has found that the request is consistent with the standards of the UDO, except that the building deviates from architectural standards and landscape standards for this use. Hence the two waivers being sought tonight, the architectural waiver of the architectural standards and the waiver of the landscaping standards. So we'll start with waiver A, that's of the architectural standards. Here we have the elevation, the proposed elevations of the building. It is a little hard to see on here, but this is just your basic typical pole barn. We have fabricated steel panels on the side of a single color. It comes with, it includes two overhead doors, a small porch on the south elevation with a entry door there. Very basic, what you would expect from any pole barn. Now, this property isn't located in any sort of overlay district. So typically the base architectural standards would be imposed on this building. Those would be the standards that we would apply to all commercial, mixed use, and institutional buildings in the town that aren't in an overlay. So it would require the same standards as, say, a retail space, a restaurant, a bank, a movie theater. Under the base standards of the ordinance, this building would be required to meet that. Some of those standards would include two different architectural materials. I have it here somewhere. That would require brick, stone, architectural precast panels, architectural metal panels, glass, ornamental metal. Those are all, they would require two of those. The building is not to be constructed entirely of metal or a glass curtain, and would require two colors, and prefabricated steel panels are prohibited, typically under the base standards of the ordinance. Hence the need for a waiver here. And some context behind that, to link it back to what I was saying originally, is that these are the standards that we impose on all commercial and institutional. So this is what we're using on new libraries, what we want our new libraries to have. And staff doesn't believe that the intent of these standards is to be imposed on a small maintenance facility in the middle of an 81-acre park. The petitioner justifies their waiver request by saying that it is just a basic pole barn meant to blend in with the surrounding land use within the park. Furthermore, Chapter 7.10, Architectural Standards, Institutional, directs the Plan Commission to consider all buildings are designed with respect to the general character of the comprehensive plan and other documents. Staff finds the architectural design to be consistent with the character of the Washington Township Park and the nature of the proposed use to store maintenance equipment. While this is not a Town of Avon Parks facility, it is a Washington Township Parks facility. We can note that the Town of Avon Parks and Recreation Master Plan mission statement is to enhance quality of life and community pride through safe, accessible, and affordable parks and recreation programs and facilities. And staff does find that the approval of this architectural waiver would be conducive with that stated mission. And we'll move on to waiver B of landscaping. Here is the proposed site. Again, a little hard to see on the screen. on the screen here. But you can see the trees notated here. These are all existing trees. There's actually no proposed landscaping as part of this development plan petition. It is just the existing trees here. The only landscaping standard that we would apply to a building like this would be the foundation landscaping, 5-foot landscaping around the building to include shrubs and ornamental trees. The other landscaping standards would include, say, landscape buffers or parkway landscaping, parking lot landscaping, all which would not apply to this. So we're really talking mostly foundation landscaping. For the sake of simplicity, I had them ask for a blanket request for all landscaping. Chapter 6.1 of Landscaping General Standards states that the intent of the landscaping requirements are to foster developments that protect and preserve the appearance, health, safety, and welfare, and increase the compatibility of adjacent uses. Staff finds that the natural landscape surrounding the entire park to more adequately serve the intent of these standards than imposing a foundation landscaping. This is similar to the justification that we use. I don't know if you all remember the Gibbs Park maintenance facility at the Hendricks County Park. They had asked for a similar waiver. With all of that, we do recommend approval of waiver A of UDO section 7.10 to allow relief from all architectural requirements. We do recommend approval of waiver B of UDO section 6.1 to 6.8 to allow relief from all architectural requirements. And should you approve both of those waivers, we recommend approval of DPR 23-12, Washington Township Parks Maintenance Facility, subject to the following conditions. 1, that any revised plans must comply with all commitments and conditions noted as part of any approval granted. And 2, that the development shall comply with all relevant portions of the town code, comments by Public Works, Fire Department, Hendricks County Surveyor, and the Crossroad Engineers at the pre-construction meeting. That's what I've got for you. I'm available for questions.
I have a question. But for it being a public park, if this was a commercial or privately held property, same situation, pole barn, surrounded by woods, would it still be the town staff's recommendation that a waiver be granted?
It might be considered. The only one that immediately comes to mind was Mears Machine had asked for a waiver of architectural standards because the rear of the building was placed so far back from US 36 that it wasn't viewable from public roads or streets. And that waiver was granted. We did recommend approval of that one. So I think that justification is in line with this in that this isn't viewable from a public road or street. It is hidden away. So I believe we may consider it, but it's all contextual.
Right. And could you remind me of the petitioner, hopefully will be here soon, they could answer, but the rationale behind their waiver request other than it being, because you frequently hear that is, oh, it's so far back, people aren't going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But could you elaborate on what the petitioner's justification is for seeking it?
Sure. Yeah, it is included in your staff report. I think it's the italicized red portion of the waiver, but I can read them off to you here. This is for the architectural standards. It's a maintenance facility located at the Washington Township Park. It's located in the back of the park near the office and splash park. Has a minimal architectural look so that it blends in with park conditions. It meets park standards for this location. It will blend in to be consistent with the nearby pavilion, office, splash pad facilities. And the facility is intended to have a natural rural feel with minimal aesthetics so that it fits into the characteristics of the park atmosphere.
But this is on the road, I mean, even though it's deep inside the park, this is on the road that goes back to the pavilion, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
It is
so
it is
it's-
a
That
private
doesn't
road.
line up.
This isn't like no one's going to go by it. Everybody that
Right.
goes to the
Right.
pavilion is going to go by this building.
Yeah, anyone that goes to the splash thing, now they got the pickleball, people that use the trail.
So it really is a public
So It's
road.
not really, I wouldn't say
It's-
it qualifies in that way, that's not viewable.
Well, I mean,
It's not public right of way. I suppose you could say that it's
it's a road that is used a lot by the public.
yes.
Yes, would be the way to say it correctly. But to me, we should probably wait for the petitioner to get here, but I think I think this differs from Gibbs. There's some distinctions to be made.
And Gibbs, so I understand there's the architectural and then there's a landscape. On the landscape, I want to say there was inclusion of some trees. I mean, I'm less concerned about the landscape waiver as I am more concerned about the architectural waiver.
I'm the opposite. I don't care about the architectural because it's a maintenance building, but
But if you go to I recently went to the pavilion, they had a play, and if you walk out the backside, it's real pretty. There's a lake there.
Right,
and
right.
a nice view and everything. I would think likewise, if you walk out the front, you would see this building. So does it blend in or not would be the question. I think it is pretty common for a lot of maintenance buildings to be brown like that. So it's not typical for.
Can you put
parks.
the map back up there where this is going to be located? Because then just south of that is the pavilion.
and then there's a shelter north of there.
Well, and
by
the
the
other
splash
thing to
park.
point out, I went by there today, there's wetlands there that I took a picture of that I don't know if it's going to be interrupted or not interrupted and where they're going to build this building.
Can you go back to the slide that shows the pavilion and everything? There?
It's in our packet. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, because and where the splash pad is, there's also a outdoor pavilion, which has, if I recall, has like masonry incorporated in it.
Well, and even the pavilion has masonry on it. I took pictures of that. So they're trying to, in my opinion, use 71 acres, this big area, and they're going to put this on a road that is the egress ingress into this property to get to all these facilities. And I don't like the word all. They use to say they want relief from all architectural requirements and all landscaping requirements. I don't like that word.
I agree.
Ian, when you had discussions with them or when staff did, were there any concessions offered by the petitioner to offset the waivers that they're asking for?
I remember brief discussions of if we need to, we can put some trees in, something of that nature. But staff was rather favorable to the waiver.
Yeah.
So when he arrives, he may be able to provide you with that.
Were there any alternate designs discussed?
None that were provided to us.
I mean, this is probably your basic maintenance facility. So this is just what they build when they do maintenance places. But I think the location here, because of where it's located, I think if it was even located like on the far side of the parking lot across from the pavilion, it might be a little more acceptable. But with that location, I'm going to have to hear really strong arguments to approve all waivers of everything. Like, working with them to accommodate their needs versus our requirements. That's what we do, but.
What's at the bottom of the hill as you go in? Well, you're already in the park, but as you go down the hill into this section,
Mhm.
don't they have currently at the bottom of that steep hill where people will sometimes go sledding, have a maintenance facility there? And if so, like, what's that, the building materials of that comprised
Yeah, on the
of?
left-hand side.
Yeah. Well, what, Greg, what is that? Can you tell what that is made out of, or?
Well,
Again,
it looks like it's made out of metal. There's three big
Are we talking about
garages.
this one here? I'm not familiar with the,
no, it's out of
Come right
frame.
into the park and you come down the hill and on the left
oh,
is the maintenance
I don't
facility.
know offhand. I believe it to be a pole barn, but I could be correct in that assumption.
And then there is another steel building just south.
Just south of
Oh,
this
the
community
pavilion.
center here.
Yeah, that looks halfway decent.
Is it all steel?
but
And that other maintenance is also kind of, I mean, there's an entrance, they've got a little parking lot in front of it, and it's kind of it's surrounded by trees.
But I would, yeah, this one is more visible, even though I get, like, we drive past that first maintenance facility. This one is where folks are parking. This is where folks are going to the concerts. This is a highly visible location.
Yeah, that maintenance facility is a pole barn of the same design.
Ah, just in time. Welcome.
Apologize for being late. Thank you for waiting for me.
We just had our presentation from Ian, and we've had a little bit of discussion, but we'd like to hear your presentation before we pepper you with questions.
No problem. Yeah, so I missed the presentation and I'm sorry, but yeah, so this is basically a pole barn for a maintenance facility.
Can we get your name and address, please?
Sorry, Matt Maple, HWC Engineering, 135 North Pennsylvania, Suite 2800, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Thank you.
All right, so in the middle of the park, there's a location where they just need a facility for maintenance of utility or vehicles and things like that. It's just going to be used for storage and maintenance. That's pretty much it for this building. It's way back in there, kind of in the middle of all the other park amenities. So it's pretty simple. I can try to answer any questions you've got, but that's about it.
Are you part of the decision-making team as to why they decided they wanted to put it right there?
I know that they wanted it in that area. We're trying to fit it as close as we could without disturbing the trees. So, I mean, that is the general location that they wanted it, was to try to minimize the trees and put it in that area.
there's a wetland there, and there's also the town trail that goes back there too, isn't there?
The trail runs beside it, and the wetland is back behind it. We have the construction plans from Structure Point, I believe it was, from when the park was built, showing all of that information.
So our concern that in the conversation, bit of conversation that we had prior to when you got here, is that this is right, even though they wanted to have it in that area, this is right on that road that goes
Whipple.
to this, yeah, Whipple, thank you. That goes to the splash pad, that goes to the pavilion, that goes to the parks. And you're asking for complete waivers of any and all architectural and landscape requirements, even though this is going to be this isn't like buried deep in the woods or something. This is on a
Right.
very heavily or a frequently trafficked stretch of road.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to feel like a park type building to go along with the park. That's my understanding is that it's going to be minimalist, if you will, to try to match the surrounding area, but also, it's a very low end, facility.
So why should we not require at least some of the standards? Why should we give a complete and total waiver of any and all standards?
That's a good question. I feel like in this circumstance, there are other maintenance buildings, I think, on the site that the same character as this one would be. So I don't think it's really going to stand out as being, vastly different from a park type building. It's going to look like a park type building. That's the best answer I can give you.
Do you have a picture of the building you propose to put here that you can share with us?
Do you have a slide for that? It's a metal sided, maintenance facility.
I think too, when you come in, you go past the splash pad, it's got masonry.
Uh-huh.
You go to the pavilion and it's all masonry.
Right.
It's right between them. And it's metal. It's, to me, it seems like if you had a house and you put a metal shed in the back, is it kind of similar to that? It doesn't really match the other buildings.
In the fact that I can't see masonry on a maintenance facility like this. I mean, in my opinion, it meets the need and the use in the area. That is my opinion. I don't know if I need architectural backup or anything like that. But that's what has been expressed to me.
So when you say that, one of the things I'm thinking of that you build to the ordinances or the standards of the community there. And so when, like maintenance buildings, they have various materials that you could put on that. You could, do you even consider potentially like 4 feet of cement or stone and then do the metal to break up the look there? Because if I look at your plans right, the east view is sitting right on the road. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So that it gives at least some architectural pleasant to the eye view for the people that are going up and down and not just a plain brown metal building.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that I can commit to that without the Parks Department giving me okay on that.
I would feel the same way about landscaping. I mean, even though there are, mature trees that will be behind the building, because that is going to be something you're going to be seeing as you're coming down Whipple, and we want, the pavilion is really nice. We've got the lake, we've got all that kind of stuff. And then just to see this pole barn basically surrounded by nothing, I would, at a minimum, want to see some landscaping to soften the view from the road.
Well, I think just pride of ownership. I mean, they've created a nice facility down there. You're going to the pavilion. You have weddings there. You have business leaders there. You have lunches there. You're going to have people from in and out of this area coming there. And when you look at the east view and the north view, when you're coming down, going south, you're going to see the back of that building. That, to me, that's not very attractive.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the side of it, the east view then is 2 overhead doors. But if I took pictures and if you look at the pavilion, you got landscaping around the pavilion. I think you're trying to bury a facility in an 81-acre parcel that everybody goes through.
Right.
Goes by it. You got pickleball courts that don't even show up on there that are down there now. So.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I asked, about the decision to put it right there on the road.
Right.
This is I can understand wanting it to be in that general area, and I know that there's wetlands there. I don't know what all goes into that. It could be that the available spaces to put it are limited based on topography and other things. But yeah, I agree with Greg on that too.
I mean, I think it's convenience is the main thing. There are some utilities on the other side of the road. There's, it's a spot where it fit, I guess, is the bottom line. And it's convenient for their access.
So to the north of this splash island or splash pad, right now they have a temporary tent put up there for, I guess, their campers. And then if you follow that gravel road, it goes up to the backside of Station Hill as an emergency egress ingress.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were going to bury it somewhere, that to me might be the area you want to put it off the road as far back as you can.
Yeah.
So I think you're kind of contradicting yourself.
Well, I'm not saying that I wanted to bury it. The instruction I was given by the Parks Department. I mean, it's their facility, it's their use. So that's kind of the direction I was given.
So I'm not concerned about the location, and that's neither here nor there. I think for our considerations, because it's the location that's being offered, so you're hearing some comment. But when I look at this, it's like breaking up the view of that building where you're asking for complete waivers to landscape and architectural requirements, that it seems like there'd be some sort of give if you want those architectural requirements, then you'd be looking to do landscaping to break up the monotony of the building design.
I would think we could do some landscaping. I'm not sure what do you know what the full Ian requirements would be for landscaping?
Let's see, I pull it up real quick. I have it right here. The only thing that would be imposed on you would be foundation plantings. 5 feet wide must be provided around the perimeter of all principal buildings, excluding access. Combination of shade or ornamental trees, evergreen, shrubbery, hedges, and or other plants at a rate of at least 1 ornamental tree plus 10 shrubs per 50 linear feet of landscape area.
I mean, it's a park. I could see adding some shrubs around it, but I mean, if you tell me that landscaping is a must and there's no waiver for it, then, and we have to follow and plant extra trees, then that's what we have to do. But I think that we felt that there's enough trees and landscaping in the area. I mean, if you want, I could see maybe the foundation shrubs and things like that are part of it being added in. I mean, you guys let me know, if you think that there's a compromise or if you think that the full package is needed.
Well, I think we would want to see some indication of compromise on the part of the park.
Okay.
Of Washington Township Park, because we want total waivers, total architectural and total landscape waivers. And if this was being built in an area that is not where the public travels very much, and it was, the other maintenance facility, as we were talking about, as you're coming down that road and it's on the left, they're surrounded by greenery. They have their own parking lot and you see it, but then you're past it and it's not something that you immediately notice. This is different. This is just like sitting right there.
Yeah.
So I think from my perspective, we'd like to see something that is more respectful of our ordinances. We compromise all the time and offers to, work with all kinds of people. So I think we would like to see something, perhaps maybe bringing someone back with you from the Parks Department or something.
I mean, I could probably commit to landscaping issues right now. If that's the Mason area is the only thing I'm not sure I could commit to. I don't know if we did some stuff with landscaping, I think I can commit to that, to doing some extra landscaping if that's what it would take.
I mean, without seeing a rendering, I couldn't vote tonight on an abstract landscaping. And I also still have concerns about architectural. Again, that may just be me, but based on its current site, as you pointed out, it's in the middle of park amenities. And also, as you said, it's low end, right? It's just a very basic pole barn. If it was a different spot, I could be open to, a waiver of the architectural standards. But again, like you pointed out, it's in the middle of the park amenities. You've got stone and masonry in the pavilion and the splash pad, and you have stone in the overall, interior or the nicer pavilion. So yeah, that's where I stand.
Could I make a suggestion? If we're deliberating, can we do public comment? Just get that out of the way with, and
Oh, sure.
unless we,
We now open the floor to any public comment. Anybody who'd like to speak on this agenda item, please step forward. Nobody being present to step forward, public comment is now closed.
I guess maybe it's the same thing, but opposite, what you're saying, Mason, it's like, I'm less inclined to grant the waiver for landscaping because I think that would break up the monotony of that, the landscape or the architectural design of the building. It's a pole barn. It's a maintenance facility. I think there could be some changes that you could make that make it a little more pleasing to the eye, but if that's the design, use landscaping to break that up. And I'd say I am not for the landscaping waiver.
So do we want to suggest that the petitioner request a continuance so that you can go back and chit chat with the park and come back with some other ideas? That might be something you could do.
If that's what it takes, we're not looking to rock a boat here.
So are you requesting a continuance?
Yes, I think we're requesting a continuance.
Okay.
Would it be beneficial to get the rest of the commission's temperature on both waivers? Because if it's just landscape, then they know just come back with more details on landscape. But if it's more than that, coming back with.
I agree with Paul that I don't think we should waive any of the landscaping. If we waive any of it, it would be minimal that I would agree to. But right now I'm opposed to waiving any of the landscape waiver request. David, what do you think?
I agree too. And taking the pictures I took this afternoon, even the splash pad, it's got landscaping around it. It might be arborvitae bushes, but it's got landscaping. And then if you look at the pavilion, it's what Ian said was the foundation landscaping with trees. I'm probably not necessarily into the big trees around it and stuff, but certainly the arborvitae bush and stuff like
The
that.
foundational?
Yeah, things that can screen it a little bit, right?
Mhm.
So it's just not, just a
So,
round.
What do you think, Dave?
That's where I could see using landscaping to screen the building a little bit to make it more interesting. I don't know what all of the, what other architectural standards are there other than
There are
materials?
2 materials, 2 colors. It's gonna be hard to name them all for you.
I think I've been texting with the Parks Department. They're open to, I guess, maybe pulling the landscaping waiver. They're not in favor of any masonry or anything like that on the building to enhance, but I think that we could provide the required landscaping to satisfy.
So are you withdrawing your request for a landscaping waiver?
Yes.
Okay, then we don't need to decide on that. Is there anything procedural we need to do? No, okay, so
It'll just be part of your motion.
okay,
I mean, you won't have to make a motion on that waiver. It's just.
okay. So that particular waiver has been withdrawn. So now we're talking about the architectural part of it. So having heard that the petitioner has withdrawn the landscaping waiver, how does the board feel about the request for a total waiver on the architectural standards? Knowing that we will now get the landscaping that we're requesting.
Without a rendering, I can't I don't.
Landscaping rendering?
Yeah, would it be adequate enough to screen a pole barn?
There's not any room in the back. I mean, we could do the foundation plantings on the back if required, but the trees would have to go on essentially the south side as to screen from the south end, if you will.
So then there wouldn't be anything on the north or the east, really? So that's when you're coming down to it and driving by it?
Yeah, I mean, there couldn't be anything on the east because it's a 10-foot drive. I mean, there could be foundation plantings. We could space the trees, do half on the south or half on the north, depending on what would be better. I mean, we can work with the planning department on that if necessary. But I would suggest taking the required number of trees and dividing them up on the north and the south ends.
If they've withdrawn the waiver, then they're obligated to meet the landscaping requirements. So would expect staff would work with them to make sure they meet that. And you've heard what we're asking for as far as like setting that up. So I'm not concerned about that because I think staff will do a good job on that. It's the architectural requirements. My opinion is if they have to do landscaping, it'll hide the monotony of that maintenance facility. And having foundation plantings, at least on the east side between the building and the road, breaks up some of that monotony because you're going to see 2 garage doors there.
What about colored? That's one of the requirements. he
Well, that'd be the waiver, part of the waiver, if we
No, I'm
grant
just
the
saying, what do you
waiver.
think about waiving, I guess the requirement is 2 colors. Is there?
Correct. Yes. Minimum of 2 different colors must be used on facades. Use of high intensity neon or fluorescent colors is prohibited.
And the one building that they do have south of the pavilion does have 2 separate colors. It's got the green roof and beige siding.
What is the coloring on what color is the roof and the siding on this?
We've got
Red and-
we've got green
red and
and white
black.
on the splash pad pavilion or patio.
So that would be what, brown and black?
And I see like a forest green and a tan on the community center.
Yeah, I think it's more like a forest green.
I mean, I'd be open, like, have some symmetry. Could they have the same color of this pole barn match the other pavilions? So there's a little bit blends in. Is that something the township would be open to? Or is it dead set on red?
I don't think it's red. I think it's more of a brown.
Brown.
That's not, the building manufacturer did not give me great renderings, so it's hard to tell, but I believe it's more of a green and a brown.
So on the east view, which is 10 feet from the road, correct? That's
Yeah.
where you're going to have your overhead doors. So are you going to have road cuts, curb cuts there too then?
There'll be an approach for each one of those drawers, just a little concrete approach.
But how do you get from the road to that? Are you
To-
going to have a curb cut?
On Whipple, there will be 2 concrete approach pads, I mean, if you will.
So in essence, you have a curb cut. You're
Yeah.
going to come up over the curb and go right into
I mean, there's no curb, but yes, sorry. It's just an asphalt road right there. I believe.
Aesthetically, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Again, because everybody that goes to that pavilion goes up there and parks to go to the pickleball court, goes over there and parks to go to splash pad, is going to see this building, and I don't know how they'll look at it, but it's the location.
Is
To
that
me,
the-
it's the wrong location.
Is that the trail south of the building?
Yeah, that's the trail.
The
that
continuation of the trail? Okay.
To the
Okay.
subdivision to the
So we're
west.
also going to be having people walking past there.
I mean, it's akin to an HOA standard that says, hey, you can have a home with brick, but you can't have a steel shed in your backyard. Like, it has to be something else. And so, this particular site is surrounded by, pavilions with brick, and then we're putting I'm not saying it has to be masonry, but it needs to look a little bit nicer than just a steel shed.
So based on the conversation, I'm hearing that a request for the waiver as it stands would not pass. Would that be a correct assessment of where we are for the waiver of the architectural standards? So I guess I would ask, again, would you like to request a continuance?
I will request a continuance.
Any objections to the request for continuance?
Nope.
You'll need your own motion.
Well, entertain a motion?
I move that we approve the petitioner's request to continue DPR 2312 Is until the next planning commission meeting enough time?
Yeah, that should be more than enough. I'm not sure what we're going to change, but we will try to work with you.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Staff report. Do we have any other business?
No, no additional business. We could do committee reports.
BCA did not meet, so
Correct, yep.
Oh, redevelopment. We did meet and we approved several invoices in total. And also got updates regards to Dan Jones widening and County Road 100 South progress.
okay. Any further committee reports? Any other news for the good of the order? In that case, unless there are any objections, meeting adjourned.